This is about starting a business, and it is specific to North Carolina, but it is pretty general in the steps to start a business. It is across the country. We use basically the same systems and the same way to register and manage. So we will talk today. Let me make sure. Is everybody able to see? If you can't see my presentation, change, or if you can't hear me, please put it in the chat. But basically what we'll talk about is two aspects of starting a business. There's one aspect, which is the preparation, which is very important, and which most of you are probably in that stage right now. Planning, thinking about it, organizing, maybe writing a business plan, creating connections, networking. That is critical to success in business. The more preparation you have, the better you're able to manage change, different things that come your way, and also you are able to start the next process, which is the paperwork side, correctly. You don't want to start a corporation if you should have done an LLC, or if you could just stay as a sole proprietorship. And we'll talk about that later on. But in that planning stage, you will find out things about yourself and maybe about your customers, about the way that you're going to have to structure this business, licenses you may need. Sometimes we are going to just go do, a simple business. We think it's simple, it's just a service, but there are little things that we could have done previously that would help us later with taxes, with the way we manage our finances. So think about preparation as a very important step, and as a step not to be jumped through fast. We have a business plan, we made it, and we're going. Instead, let's maybe write the business plan, talk to a counselor about it, share it with a friend or somebody that you trust, throw it out there, talk about the idea with other people, and see how that idea begins to evolve and change before you start this next process, which involves, the paperwork side, the registering your business, getting those finances set up. Maybe you need an accountant, maybe you need tax help, maybe you need to get some professional services involved in your business. So we'll kind of divide that into two sections. I will not stay too long on any one section because I want to pass through the whole presentation and give some time for questions as well. So continuing on with the preparation side, some questions you should be asking yourself are, is my experience, what I know now, good for what I'm trying to do in my business? Or do I need a partner, or do I need additional support to actually be able to produce or do this idea, get this idea out there as a business? So think about your experience. How willing are you? And this is you'll find this in all the little PDFs you can find online, or the videos, or whenever somebody talks about starting a business, they'll always tell you something about the first 2 years being a little bit hard, and maybe really hard, possibly with no salary coming from the business. Possibly the business is running, if you're lucky, it's running, not at a loss, but not at a profit either, which is not a bad thing. But that first section, that first time of starting the business is usually going to be very flat, and possibly you're not going to be able to get any money for yourself to augment your own income from the business in that first year or two even. But you will be laying a foundation, which is going to help you rise at the end. So are you willing? The question is, are you willing to put in extra hours maybe, to not have income from the business yet, and continue to work on it as you grow it into something that will flower and produce what you really want it to produce in the end? Most businesses take some time to develop enough capital to actually be able to pay their owners. Some businesses and some service industries, you will start to see some kind of profit right at the beginning if you're structured it correctly and you don't have too many expenses. Another question to ask for yourself is the idea, or is the product that you're launching, is this something that people need? Is it really something that they want, or even is it something that people are ready for now? And some of that, a lot of this can be for brand new things, for a new app or for an idea for a product that you think is not out on the market, do that initial research, see if there's something similar, see if other people are thinking along the same lines, which generally things come up at the same time, maybe in different parts, but ideas tend to sprout out at the same time. So see if anybody else is doing it, see how they're doing it, study their method, and be quick about it. In this case, if it's something like that, something brand new, you want to plan fast. Sometimes some people say skip the business plan, get to production. That's up to you and up to what you're doing with your business. Every business is different. Every approach is going to be different, and it may be just a personality thing, but you want to make sure that you have evaluated that idea and see that that idea or that product is going to provide you with what you actually want in the end, whatever that is. Maybe that's just an income to support you. Maybe it's you want to grow a business that becomes something even bigger, something that you can sell later on, or who knows, what is your goal? Is that idea, does it make sense for that idea to generate what your goal is, and work from there? Work backwards, if you will, from there. So kind of reiterating right here what I just said, but here's a good quote. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. I think I said it, so paraphrased it before, but take some time to prepare. My grandpa used to say that when you paint a wall, 90% of your time is spent preparing the wall for the paint. And then you paint, and it's done, and it's beautiful, and it works, and it lasts for a long time. But if you just paint the wall and you didn't prepare the surface, that paint will come off, it will crack, it'll look bad, it won't be smooth. So take that time to prepare so that when you're putting that paint on, it's all smooth and it's coming out just like you envisioned it in the beginning. So writing or not writing a business plan, to write or not to write. And that is a question, but it may not be the question. If you look online, if you do some research on business plan, there's a lot of new stuff coming out and new people that say, don't write a business plan, or write a one-pager, or do something really simple, get to doing, instead of writing and preparing a long document. It really depends on what is your goal, what is the business for, what kind of business is it, and what is the business plan going to work for you to get money, perhaps? One of the main reasons people write business plans is to sell the business to a bank or to a credit union, to investors, to get money so that you can start the business or grow the business. Another thing about business plans is that they're for yourself and for your planning stage in your organization, to create a platform from which you measure your business and the success of your business or where it's going. I'm looking at the questions. I don't want to leave stuff too far. There's a question here. It says, what would you say an optimal time frame to begin to earn profits over straight line or loss and determine the business is not going to be successful or change a model? The time frame for that is something that you want to think about while you're writing the business plan or as you're preparing. For you personally, how long do you want to wait before, or how long can you wait before you need income to come from this business? If you have partners or if you have investors, that's also something that they want to know. What is the timeline that you envision? What have you forecasted before the business actually starts to produce profit? And that can be many different things. I don't know if you remember that Amazon, for example, wasn't making a profit per se until quite recently, because they were reinvesting in their business constantly and they weren't paying out to their investors. And that's how they developed their business plan. And I think you could say it worked very well. Obviously, people were getting paid, but the actual profit of the business wasn't happening. And you can decide that in the beginning, depending on what kind of business you have. Are you going to immediately start taking a salary and work that into the operating income of the business? Or are you going to reinvest that kind of money into the business to grow it or to gain? Maybe you had a loan in the beginning, maybe you want to pay it off fast. These are just things you need to think about and plan and measure yourself, your partners, or your investors, and see what makes sense. How far can you go without income before the business doesn't feel like it makes sense. And that could be 2 years, it could be more, it could be 6 months. It also depends on what kind of business. If it's a food business, you can probably guarantee yourself no income. And I don't want to be a downer on it, but there's a lot of investment in the beginning for food, and then the profit rises very slowly. It's not a huge margin business. It is a good business, and there's a lot of people want it out there, but it does take some time. So you have to evaluate that. Some service businesses, they will, like I said, I mean, if you're providing web services, you're providing a design or something, you can get a profit in that first job. Maybe you don't need to reinvest to get another job. So in that business plan, you have forecasted that your first job you'll make 5% as profit. The next job you can make 10%, or you need to buy some equipment so you make a little less, and you kind of evaluate it. Maybe your second job pays for the first job. That is something that I would say is individual to each business, and you need to think about that in the beginning. How long can you wait to make a profit yourself or your partners? So writing a business plan, going back to that is a whole other subject, and we have a class dedicated to writing a business plan as well. And it is a good idea to talk to somebody one-on-one about your business plan, even if you have one already. Send it in, we can look at it, send you some critiques, you can keep writing it, or you can talk about it in a counseling session. But we also do have a class on business plan. Another thing to do right in the beginning is to create a budget, and that goes back to this question. What is your budget right now? Can you start the business right now with what you have? And if you can, how long will that capital that you've invested now, how long can you wait till it provides you with payback for that capital, for example, or with just some money coming in to the business that can be used for your, living or operational expenses? So write it out, even if you don't know all the numbers. Forecast it. Think about what you might be spending and put it in that budget as a forecast to get yourself a baseline of what you are going to have to spend. Research, things like how much time you will spend driving around. For example, if the business requires driving, how much time do you spend driving? How much gas do you spend for the business? If you purchase things, anything that's related to the business, especially in that first year, what are you purchasing and how much does it cost? Things like pens and paper, calculators. That's what I saw on this. I'm looking at this slide, and that's what I'm thinking of. But operating materials, anything that you're going to use to do that business in the beginning, factor that into your budget as your capital investment, and make yourself an operating budget as well, just for you to understand potentially what are you going to spend. And does that product that you have or that idea, does it or is it capable of providing income that will cover those costs and cover growth costs and provide you with income or your employees with income? But a budget right in the beginning is essential, even if you don't know all the numbers. Throwing something out there that is at least close is going to do you a lot of good. Networking. So a lot of people come to us and ask about money and how to get money. And it is a very good question, because for most businesses, you want some kind of money right at the start to start the business. Normally, and our answer usually is tap your friends and family and people that are directly around you. In other words, your network, your immediate network, because that's where you're going to get money. Banks, credit unions, loans from wherever you can find them, investors, those are a lot harder to get. They require a lot more time, and they may require you to already have your business running for a certain amount of time and to provide some proof of concept with that idea or product before they will invest in you, especially a bank or a credit union. Almost in every case, they will require 2 years of tax statements and income statements before they will even think about giving you a loan. And that can, even for CDFIs and and credit unions that are trying to help small businesses. They don't want to just throw money at you and see it disappear. They're in the business of lending money, but also of making that money back so that they continue in their own business. That's their model. They want to make sure that your model is sound as well. So in this networking stage, which is right now and forever, you want to be connecting with people that are doing either something similar than you, and you can use them for information, or associations, chambers of commerce, organizations that can provide you support and networking opportunities to find clients, to see, maybe even interact with potential customers, with partners. Networking is foundational to providing you that foundation, said it twice, to grow the business, to get financing, to get ideas, and to get people. Every business needs some level of support. Even a single sole proprietorship with one person doing all the work. If you have a strong network, you will have help, you will have support, and you will get more customers faster. So think about these organizations. Some of them are here, the Women's Business Center, chambers of commerce. Local chambers of commerce are great. Some of them require some kind of a membership fee, but it is worth it if they're providing you with resources. I mean, some of them even will provide you with design resources, logos, advertising, marketing. There are other benefits to memberships, like with, for example, a Chamber of Commerce. And I'll probably talk about networking again, but it is essential. Throwing your stuff out here on the chat and connecting with people on here. Everybody here has some kind of idea or wants to do something with a business, maybe even has a business. Connect with people. Here's another thing. Is it wise to give others details of your business through networking before you get the business launched? Excellent point. It depends on your business. Again, if you have an idea or a product that you think doesn't exist, or that is right in that new stage where somebody could just take it and maybe they have the resources to launch it immediately, yes, you should definitely be careful. You should definitely be careful with that. But again, you have to talk to people a little bit. And depending on what you're doing, depending on if you're asking for money or investment, you're going to have to share some aspects of your business. So evaluate the business. Is it a business that somebody can steal and, take your idea from you? Then be careful how you share it. Share what you can share without sharing the core, or go ahead and work on a patent or a copyright for the idea. Get yourself a company, an LLC or a corporation, depending on what it is, to protect that idea before you start to, talk to people about it or look for investment. But then that is also an expense. So that is something you need to factor into your budget. If you have to do a copyright or patent, depending on how extensive that is, they charge per page. So you want to think about that aspect. But it is definitely wise to protect your idea with a patent or copyright or the company before you start sharing that idea around. But it depends on your business, and sometimes you have to risk it and just be ready to move very quickly. Funding is an entire class, and it is an entire subject. There are better people to talk to about funding than me, because I immediately tell you, wait 2 years before you go get it. But it is available sometimes for a startup to get funding, depending on their idea and depending on how well you sell it. You may find yourself just becoming a salesman of an idea to get funding, and you have to be very good at selling it, because the person that buys that idea is probably wanting to make money off that idea as well. If it's a bank, they definitely want that interest, and they want to be guaranteed that they will get that money back, or they want some kind of guarantee that they're not investing in a loss. So, like I said, it's an entire thing. But this little graph right here, I like it. Most businesses start with less than $5,000. most businesses do start with the money that the owner has or that he got from a few friends. He asked, hey, can you lend me $100 for this idea? And they were like, sure, man. That sometimes is how a business starts. And don't feel like you have to get a loan or you have to look for investment right at the beginning. Again, that budget and that business plan side, think about how you can start this idea you have with what you have. And if you can, do that and work slowly to a point where you have some kind of foundation from which to start looking for investment or a loan for that matter. Grants and money from the government is available, and we don't like to talk too much about it because it is hard to get. It is most grants are for businesses that are either helping people, are nonprofits, or are providing a service that is being funded for some reason by the government or by a city. Maybe there's a grant for a business starting in a specific part of a city because they're trying to grow that neighborhood or help it to come back from some kind of an economic situation. Those type of grants exist, but they're hard to get because you're going to be competing with other people trying to do the same exact thing. So there's a quote somewhere in there, I think I skipped it already, but it says, work like somebody else is working 24 hours a day to take what you are doing from you. I think it's Mark Cuban said something like that. I'm paraphrasing right now, but that's what you got to do when you're looking for a grant. You are working hard against other people doing the same exact thing. So I know I feel like I'm rushing through that, but let's keep going, and we'll cover some more things. And again, reach out to us for that one-on-one if it makes sense for your business or your business idea. And look at the resources I'll send you after this presentation as well. So I said taxes and legal there. I at one point it was called paperwork and legal, and because basically that's what it is. It's the paperwork that you have to complete to be legal and registered with the government generally, or have a license to operate, or whatever it is you're doing. So that is basically what this is. We're going to register our business with local government. We're going to find a way to pay our taxes, and we're going to see if we need some kind of licensing or some kind of certification to provide this service that we're going to provide. So before we do that, we want to make sure, and this is part of that planning stage, but it's going to go into the registration. Give your business a name and make sure that that name is something that you can use, something that is not already taken, and it is something you can create a website with. You can put it on a product. You can register the business with it, and it is not already being used or similar to something that is already being used and might pop up first on a Google search, for example. It is very good idea to do Google searches for names that you think of and see what pops up, because there are businesses that you didn't even imagine out there, and the names are all over the place. Use social media, use Google, use the government resource as well to find out if that name is taken or similar to something else, or even a part of that name. If a part of that name, for example, Duke, if Duke is in your name, if you type that in, guarantee you will find stuff related to Duke University or healthcare before you find yours. So think about that in the way you think about your name, the advertising or the keyword aspect of your name in Google searches, in Google Maps searches, or in social media, because people, a lot of times, the way they verify a name or a company or a product is by going on Google or going on social media and seeing what they have out there. So think about that as a very important aspect of registering your business, getting that website, getting that social media presence. So as far as the actual government, you're just going to go to the Secretary of State website if you're doing an LLC or a corporation and register that with them. That creates the company, and it creates the legal entity by which you're going to function. If you're doing a sole proprietorship, it'll be a little bit different, but we'll get into that in a minute. So business structure. sole proprietorship, limited liability company, and corporation. That is basically the three structures that exist. You can be a partnership as well and function in one of these structures. Here's a question. I tried to claim a business name and was told by Springfield I couldn't claim a business name until I have a place of business. So a place of business, I assume what was happening here, if you don't have an LLC or a corporation and you're claiming the business name on the county website, I imagine that's what you're talking about, like an assumed name certificate or a DBA. I'm not sure what the situation was there, but with an assumed name or a DBA, for example, for a sole proprietorship or an LLC or even a corporation, this is just it's just a paperwork, a process you do with the county. Generally, it's with the county to state that you, Mr. Nathaniel Sperger, do business as this name, this Sperger Websites, let's say, for example. So if anybody says, see Sperger Websites, it is in fact Nathaniel Sperger doing this business. If it is Nathaniel Sperger LLC, again, it's the same thing with the assumed name. I don't want to put LLC at the name of it on all my signs, so Nathaniel Sperger is my name that I am registering with the county, and that says to the county and to anybody else that Nathaniel Sperger is in fact Nathaniel Sperger LLC, the company that exists or the person that exists. And if they said that you can't, I'm not sure what you were trying to register, but if you were trying to, that question needs a little more information, but it probably has to do with what kind of business it was, and they were expecting an actual place of business before they could say that this was this or that. So, yes, for sole proprietorships or for using a different name than your LLC name or your corporation name, you do that with the county, and it's called an assumed name certificate or a DBA, a doing business as certificate. And it's just informing the county of what I just stated, basically. So let's talk about these structures real quick. The sole proprietorship is interesting to me because it's basically it is the way that Americans do business, and you'll find this happens in the rest of the world as well, but generally it's like an under the table thing. Here, when you are a sole proprietorship, basically what has happened is I have decided to sell something or to provide a service, and I am providing that service and I'm selling that thing and I'm making money. I am a sole proprietorship. That is it. There's nothing you have to do. There's no registration. There is nothing other than informing a county, which will cover you for the whole state, that this name I'm using is this person. In the case of a sole proprietorship, it is just a person with a social security number that does business as whatever they do business as. It may be their name or it may be a company name that they have. But that's all it is. It is just you providing a service and you are the company. So if somebody sues you or if there's a tax situation, it is you personally who are taking that suit on yourself. So that is what a sole proprietorship does. Let's see. It says here, can you have two or more DBA under one legal name or LLC? I do not think so. But that is an interesting thing. I think that you cannot. I would say that you should have a separate LLC for each DBA, because it would be confusing and it could create some. You could probably do it, but at some point it might create a problem for you. So even if it's just an LLC or a sole proprietorship, every business that you do should have a separate line of, the paperwork, a paper line, a paper trail to protect you mainly, even if you're just a sole proprietorship. Because you want to make sure that anything that happens in the name of that business, if it's a DBA, does not come back to something else. And, now they take your entire LLC for something that one of the businesses did, one of the DBAs did, that, maybe you didn't want that connection, but you had it connected in paper, and so it's connected now. If you're a sole proprietorship, again, if it's just you, anything that happens there is going to affect you as a person. So the question that popped up in the chat disappeared on me, but it said, what is an LLC for? And so that question will be answered right now. This is a corporation slide. I'm going to jump ahead and we'll jump to the LLC slide, and then I'll touch on the corporation. But an LLC is the way that a number of years ago, in the hundreds of years ago, people came up with this way to not have to start a corporation, but be able to provide protection for someone starting a business, so that you weren't in this sole proprietorship conundrum where if they sue you, you personally and all your assets are on the line. So an LLC creates a legal entity that is separate from you to protect you from this, from suits, from tax issues, from anybody coming after the business. They can only come after the business. They cannot come after the owner of the business, which is you. And you become a member of the LLC. And that creates that separation between you and whatever this business is doing. To keep that separation is something else, and that is another area of running a business that you have to think about. Even with a sole proprietorship, you want to keep business and personal things separate, because that allows you to protect yourself. When the business has an issue, it's the business, not you personally. With an LLC, that is providing that protection, but you have to make sure you run the business in such a way that you are in fact protected. In other words, everything that the business does, the LLC does, is done in the name of the LLC, is then by the LLC resources with an LLC bank account and with an LLC tax number. Nothing is being mixed with your personal name, your social security, your bank account. So there's no money running around crossing that personal and LLC or company line. So if somebody comes after the company, the first thing they're going to do is see if there's a way that they can trace that company to a person or two partners, so that they can breach that separation and affect you personally. And for whatever reason, that is something that they want to do. And if they can't, they can only come after the business. So you're protected as a person. So that is the main function of an LLC, and it is recommended to go ahead and start an LLC if the business has any potential risk elements, like, for example, a food business or a business that provides a service that somebody could get hurt doing or when they're involved in. So opening a spa, a very good reason to open an LLC, zap an LLC, just to protect you from angry customers, for example, or from somebody that decides that you did something that was bad for them and they want to come after you. That is not really a common thing, even though we hear about suits and strange suits all the time. It isn't something to be petrified over, but it is a wise thing to do to protect yourself from potential issues, even from tax issues. You don't want to have your personal income be affected by tax issues that you may not even have known about for your business. You want to make sure there's a separation. So just jump back towards corporation for 1 second, just to talk about the difference. And the main difference of a corporation and an LLC is that it is more complicated to run. So we don't recommend it as a beginning business structure, especially if you're a small business doing small money transactions. But if you are thinking of doing larger, if your business is already structured as a larger business with more people involved, with bigger investment, and you want to be able to channel investment or capital back into the business, corporation is a good idea. There are some tax benefits to corporations, but they're not necessarily unavailable to LLCs. If you get a good tax person, or you understand taxes, or you want to get real deep into that, you can be taxed as a corporation when you are an LLC. But that is a little bit more complicated. But again, it's not a reason to have a corporation just because you want to be taxed as a corporation. Because an LLC can be taxed as a sole proprietorship, which is the default tax, then it can be taxed as an S corporation or even as a C corporation if you file for that tax bracket or tax method. But it involves a little more work on your side in your tax filing, in the way you manage the money, and in the way you report different aspects of your business. Corporations obviously have more eyes on them because they're larger, they're affecting more people, or that is what they're supposed to be, and you're going to have more reporting to do for a corporation. So we'll stick to the LLC. I've kind of covered this already, but opening an LLC is as easy as going to the Secretary of State website for the state you're in, which in our case is North Carolina. The site is right there. It's sosnc.gov. They have a bunch of resources on how to do the registration, on how to generate documents for reporting. There's a report that you do once a year and a renewal of the registration that you do once a year. The cost right now is $125, and you will have to factor that into your cost as a yearly thing, but it is well worth it to protect yourself from possible problems down the line. Let me check what this says right here. A company like Bank of America has many subsidiaries. Are they DBAs or separate businesses? Okay, so that's an interesting thing. A lot of times, I don't think you could really call them DBAs. Bank of America, for example, and I could be, making this up in some cases, but for example, the way that Bank of America advertises themselves in their local area, they will be doing business as Bank of America, not Bank of America, Inc. So they do a DBA just to be able to have that, like McDonald's will do business as McDonald's, but the DBA states that this business, McDonald's at this address, is actually, some kind of a company, an LLC usually, owned by this one person who lives here locally and owns a few other McDonald's, like franchises, for example. So they'll do DBAs to say that this McDonald's at this location. In that case, I think you would probably have multiple DBAs because you're talking about the same business at different locations under one LLC. But yeah, that is something that corporations and LLCs do often, so they don't have to put that LLC or that Inc. at the end of their name on their ads, wherever they are. The operating agreement, that is a legal document that you should make for your LLC. Even if you're a one-person LLC, you should create an operating agreement that states how your business is run, what it does when it hires somebody or fires somebody, or how it manages its accounting, how it buys products, what is the basic structure of its operations. You want to include that in an operating agreement that you can provide to a partner, you can provide it to employees, or you can provide it to the government if they ask for it. So there is only one fee to register an LLC. It's $125 and you are registered. There are, sometimes if you register the company through a company, like through a company that's doing this process for you, they charge you for a certificate of existence, I think. And now they may send you more things. And they're just trying to pull money out of you for additional items. You can pay for a certificate of existence from the Secretary of State website yourself. You don't have to pay anybody else to get it. And you do have to pay to get the certificate, but you don't need to have that certificate. Your name exists on the Secretary of State's registration. So you don't really have to, there's really no other fee except if you want to have that certificate. As long as you get the LLC and now you can function and you're legal, that was a cost of that initial investment, and factor it into your initial investment, and you should be fine as long as you keep going with your plans. Paying somebody to do something for you is not a bad thing. Getting help with writing a business plan, people do this for money. People help you register a business, do the taxes, do other things for money. That's another type of business that exists because Opening businesses is a thing that people are doing all the time. Sometimes you have a business that's running, you have an LLC, you want to open a new LLC to do something else, you pay somebody to do it because you're too busy doing this other thing. So, I mean, there are reasons to pay people, and if it's in your budget and you factored it in, do it, and you're helping other businesses, so it's not all bad. The next step after you register your business is to apply for the EIN, which is just basically the Social Security number of that business. So it's a tax ID number that you will use to open bank account, to do your taxes with the business, or to provide to employees so they can provide on their tax side. So that is all it is. It takes seconds to do on the IRS website. You can do it for a sole proprietorship as well if you don't want to play with your Social Security number in paying employees, for example. But it is an easy thing to do. The website is at the end of this presentation, and it takes no time at all. You do need it to open a bank account for an LLC, though, so think about that. Business bank account. And this goes back to protecting that separation between you and your business. If you need a business bank account, you should have a separate checking account, at least if you're doing a sole proprietorship, just to have the money that is dedicated to the business on one side and your personal stuff on the other. For an LLC or a corporation, you have to have a business bank account. Otherwise, you now invalidate the whole reason of having the LLC because you're mixing personal with business. Here's a question. Is it true that you can write off company advertising that you put on your vehicle? It depends. There's a lot of things you can write off in the beginning, in the first year of taxes of a business, that you can't write off later. I don't know if you can write that off necessarily, the advertising cost. But I know that there is I'm going to say scheme, but I don't necessarily mean a bad thing, where you advertise something on your car and it basically pays for the car. You may be advertising for somebody else, or you may be advertising for yourself and deducting that advertising cost from what it costs to own that car. I don't know how long you can do that. It may just be that first year, because there's a lot of things and initial investments that you can write off at the beginning that you cannot write off later. But writing off expenses is something to think about as well, because when you apply for a loan later, if that is in your plan, you want to make sure that your taxes don't show I made no money, right? You want taxes to show I made money because my business is a good business and it in fact makes money. So when you write things off, write them off wisely and with keeping that in mind, that you don't want to have a business that runs at zero profit. You want to have a business that pays taxes and that runs at a profit so that you can get a loan. Otherwise, they say, well, your business doesn't make any money. I don't see how you're going to pay this loan back. So think about that when you're thinking about write-offs as well. But, it all goes back to that planning and what your goals are with your business. Write-offs are a great thing. Talk to your tax professional about them and make sure you take advantage of what you can take advantage from for your business. But keep your goals in mind. So after you've registered a business, you have that EIN, now you have a bank account for certain businesses, food, for example, or certain professional services. You want to make sure you have state, local, federal licenses. And those take a lot of investigating sometimes, and there may be multiple ones. There may be inspections required. If it's a building that you have, there'll be inspections, there'll be licensing, and those can take some time. So try to research those and see how much time you need. That can involve how much time before you actually start making money, because you're running through these expenses of certifying, licensing, or inspecting different items of your business as you go along. Once those are all out of the way, generally it's a question of upkeep, but keep all this paper, get those file folders ready to keep all these things together. And I have investigated licensing for many different types of businesses, and it is a web of all kinds of stuff that you have to work through. There's the local stuff right at your city level, there's county, and there's state, and then sometimes there's federal. So working through those and doing a lot of reading and researching, phone calls is going to help you a lot. And try to do that right now if you have a business that is going to require some kind of a licensing. This is an interesting one people don't know about usually. With the home occupation permit, which comes from a county or city generally, like for example Raleigh or Durham, they both have this. This is kind of a way to benefit in that tax season, what we're talking about. If you have a home occupation permit, you can deduct items of your home's use, like electricity, square footage, bathroom even, and internet, from your taxes at the end of the year as a business expense. If you don't have the permit, you can't actually use that write-off. So if that is something that you're doing or you think you can benefit from, then think about checking that out as well. Buy yourself some insurance. Almost every business can benefit from some kind of insurance. Again, it's a thing that you need to research. Talk to an insurance company, talk to somebody, an insurance salesman, and see what they recommend. Generally, it's pretty inexpensive for general liability, let's say, or product liability, depending on your business. And it's well worth doing to protect yourself and keep yourself from a big expense in, the case of an accident or some unfortunate situation that you just didn't think about. But it's well worth investigating. And if you have vehicles, it goes without saying, if you're doing something in a dangerous industry, insurance is a must. If you have multiple employees, if you have more than 3 employees, you're going to have to think about workers' compensation insurance. But these are all things that you want to factor into that initial plan. Think about insurance and permitting and licensing. So I'm 10 minutes away, and I'll keep going. So if you have more questions, keep putting them in the chat, and we can probably get through most of this presentation and most of the items here. I already talked about this, but again, I'll just state what it says here. Keep your filings current, your yearly filings and your operating filings, your reporting with the Secretary of State of your state. Keep that money separate. Do everything in the name of the business or in your person, depending on for who it is. Don't drive the business car to do something personal, because it will become a line that cross-sects the business and your person and creates an avenue for people to come after you instead of just the business. So keep those things separate. And use an accountant or a CPA, a tax professional, to help you, especially in the beginning, because of those little things that we don't think about that you need help with possibly, and that it is a good idea to have professional assistance with at the beginning of the business. You may be able to take it over or use an accounting software, but even with accounting software, you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of what you can take advantage, writing off what you should write off, and managing those taxes from the business and from your person and that payment between them correctly. It says, when will this recording be available? It will be available as soon as it is processed. It takes a couple hours, and I usually can get it out by the end of the day. So I'll probably by the end of the day, you'll have the recording with the presentation and the other resources that I promised. Building a great website. We said this in the beginning, is researching that Googling our name. A website is like the first place people go to when they think of hiring somebody. See if they have a website. If you have a business name, if you have a DBA and you're a sole proprietorship and you don't have a website, it's like you don't exist. Even having a place in Google Maps is better than nothing. And in fact, it works a lot. It's a great way to advertise your business. Making a Google Maps website, which is totally free. Create an account with Google, make a Maps location, put your contact information in there. People find businesses all the time on Google Maps. That is enough. If you have Google Maps, if you have a Facebook or a Instagram page that people can go to and find you when they Google search you, that is wonderful. If you make yourself an actual website, because for your business it makes sense to have an actual website, then make a great website. Pay somebody to do it if you don't think you can, but there are free free ways to make websites that are perfectly acceptable. You can make a very nice, simple website for free, with templates and with stuff already there ready for you. And if you pay for it, it's even better because you remove any kind of advertising or any kind of domain names at the end of your website that look like it's a free website. It's better to have a .com or .org or a .whatever than a .wix.com or .squarespace.com or whatever you use. So think about that in your initial budgeting. That website is critical. But again, that Google Maps, that Facebook, those things work and they help. Just reiterating networking, I'm just going to skip, but networking is key. Google Maps is networking, social media as well. Women's Business Center. So this is our contact information and what we do. Keep us in mind, check us out, get one-on-one business counseling with us. We have different counselors with different ideas about business and different ways of approaching the same things. So it's worth taking some time with different counselors. And there's other options as well for counseling one-on-one for free. There's so many good resources you can use. Score.org, for example, they offer actual one-on-one counseling with people that are either in business right now or have been in business and want to talk to other people and help them out. There's great stuff out there. Here we got, in the world of social media, do you consider page names and usernames as DBAs? Not necessarily, but if you have an LLC and your page doesn't include that LLC in it, you should probably have a DBA to protect your LLC and to protect your name, because it's also a way to protect the doing business as name. That's all it is like I said with McDonald's Facebook page is probably just McDonald's, right? And their advertising in the street is just McDonald's, but they have a DBA that states that they are in fact, John Smith's LLC that runs this McDonald's. But a social media, you don't have to do that with social media. You can put whatever name you want for your business, but it makes sense for it to have a relationship to that business. So have a DBA if you're not using the LLC, or include the LLC so that people know that one goes with the other. I'll keep going here with the contact information. This is all in the chat, and I'll include it in the email, so you can just check the email and use that to contact us. These websites, again, these are those important websites. They'll be in this presentation. You can check them out from the presentation. The 3 steps are basically here. Register that business, get that IRS number, the EIN, any taxes with the local taxes you need to take care of, get a bank account, and then work on your licensing. These 2 bottom resources are great for helping you start a business. They link you to other places and they do just wonderful stuff. So that is all I have for today. I hope to see you all sometime again in the future in another one of these classes or in a one-on-one counseling. And I definitely wish you the best, and keep on planning and preparing and register that business if it is what you need to do. But get doing that business, because there is no business that succeeds except with actual doing. The action is what matters. If you're moving, stuff is gonna come at you. If you're standing still, you're just standing still. So great to have you all. My name is Nathaniel, and hope to see you around. Take care and have a great day.